I don't think I have to tell you that Mario Kart is a huge moneymaker of a franchise, more than even the mainline Mario games. The Switch's installment, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, is no different. It is still the best-selling game on this console. It's a port of the Wii U's Mario Kart 8. No wonder why it was so successful. That it improved on that version of the game, which would be a strategy Nintendo uses a lot for other games. Years after this port released, it didn't really get anything else. The base game additions included the Boo and Feather items, Inkling Girl and Boy from Splatoon as playable racers, as well as vehicle parts based on the same game, returning racers, Bowser Jr., King Boo, and Dry Bones, let's go Boner! But that was pretty much it. The only updates this game got was adding Link from Breath of the Wild as a skin over whatever Link this is, with Breath of the Wild themed bike parts. The Master Cycle actually comes from Mario Kart 8, fun fact. There was Nintendo Labo support as a gameplay option. Who the f used this? An official interview with Takahashi made it seem like there would be more after this, and there just wasn't for a long time. Until... I was like the #1 advocate for this game getting DLC and adding more tracks at some point. It made the most sense. This game is still selling. A new Mario Kart isn't going to sell as much as something that's still selling. There should be a larger difference between this and the original Wii U release. It realistically would be paid, but they did the same for the Wii U version's DLC, and those tracks were great, so it's completely fine. Why does it look like that? So I should probably tell you about Mario Kart Tour, a mobile Mario Kart game released in 2019 that had a bunch of tracks from Mario Kart's history, mainly from 7 and remakes of Super Circuit. There are Nitro tracks here as well, most of which are from real-life locations, hence why it's called Tour, because you're taking a tour around the world. So like, no. I think the Booster Course Pass was meant to preserve some of these tracks when the service for it eventually shuts down, which isn't the case right now, but there is no new content being added to it, which is close enough. I don't think that anyone's phone is producing environments on par with the tracks in the base game of Mario Kart 8. But did they really have to be copy and pasted? They look so out of place compared to every other track in this game. It's like seeing a black kid with an Asian family. Even the battle courses look better than these. And this never gets touched up on at all in the entire DLC, by the way. The later waves look a little better, but the older ones will look exactly the same. And it's so easy to point out which is from the DLC and which one isn't. But I understand why they did this, I guess. Why remake tracks from the ground up when you already have them somewhere else? But you could have done a better job than just a texture swap, unless it's Toad Circuit's grass. But the point isn't to dog on how these courses look. I'm not a dog. Everyone knows that how something plays matters more than how something looks. I'm sure people in the 70s thought that. Well, I didn't say all of them. Since the DLC was finished not too long ago, it would only make sense to see how it is and if it was worth the price that I didn't pay because I have the expansion pass, which was arguably worse. Golden Dash Cup includes Paris Promenade from Tour, 7's Toad Circuit, 64's Choco Mountain, and Wii's Coconut Mall. The first track revealed in the Booster Course Pass's announcement, and rightfully so. Coconut Mall is a popular one, like Mario Kart Wii entirely. Paris introduces a new mechanic to the game that actually makes these tracks way less boring. The track's arrangement changes after every lap, instead of having the same arrangement every lap. Similar to how Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, great game by the way, did that. I believe the reason for this is to preserve all the different variants of the tour courses, which is a really smart idea. But one of the big problems with the tour tracks, which you'll see some more of later on, is most of them start to blend together a bit. Without the recognizable monuments, it just makes it look like you're driving through another random city. The footage I'm showing you isn't even a track from this cup! The biggest offender of this wave, and the worst introduction to the entire DLC, is Toad Circuit. Not only is this track extremely basic, which would probably fit since it's the first cup of the wave, but look at it! The original course on the 3DS had better looking grass! This made people skeptical of what was to come for the quality of these tracks. It's alright, I guess, but I say I'm alright, I guess, all the time, and it's never true. I can't say the same for Choco Mountain, though. It looks great. The music is great. I love the Crystal Cave they added in this remake. This is what a retro track should be like, even though this comes from Tour like everything else in this DLC. I gotta appreciate when it looks like there was effort put into it. Also, this doesn't look that chocolatey. Diagonal treadmills. Coconut Mall is basically the same as it is through all of its iterations, which means it's great. Except there are V's instead of escalators, which makes no sense. There are additions to many stores and billboards that were not previously in Mario Kart 8, which is nice. And the cars at the end don't move. Until the next update. That would have been a great segue if I didn't have more to talk about. The Lucky Cat Cup, which isn't called the Lucky Bell Cup for some reason, includes Tour's Tokyo Blur, DS Shroom Ridge, GBA Sky Garden, and Ninja Hideaway, which is also from Tour, but they pass it off as a nitro track in the game for some reason. Tokyo Blur is extremely generic, which is a surprise to me because Japan is where Nintendo resides in. You think they put effort into their hometown. I thought it would be like a Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games situation. Jesus, that's a mouthful. The flags aren't even moving. Where are we? The moon? Shroom Ridge also isn't anything special. This has the same problem with Toad Circuit where it kinda doesn't look good, but it's a pretty okay course. The best part about it is that this is its first time being remade and hasn't been in 7 or Tour yet. So that's a plus, I guess. Sky Garden is pretty alright as well. There really isn't a lot going on, but it doesn't have a lot going for it either. Ninja Hideaway, however, has a lot going on and plenty going for it. This is a really fun course. There are so many paths you can take in this track. It just looks really great except for the trees that look like plastic and Shy Guy ninjas, when there are literally ninja-themed enemies in Mario already, who also debuted in Super Mario Bros. 2, which is also known as Doki Doki Panic. You probably noticed I repeated myself a lot talking about the first wave of the DLC. Yeah, it's really worrying, but we all prayed it would get better in the next wave, and well, life's not fair. The Turn-Up Cup includes Tour New York Minutes. By the way, each cup starts with a city track, which is completely understandable. There were a lot of them. SNES Mario Circuit 3 specifically, N64 Calamari Desert, and DS Waluigi Pinball. New York is a little more interesting because you're not just on the road, and New York's iconic buildings lighting up and the night motif is here, so that's nice. It's not quite there in terms of being different though. Then, and it's not even a minute long. SNES Mario Circuit 3. I can't even get mad because every iteration of SNES Mario Circuit is just SNES Mario Circuit. And this is from Tour, so they can't really change much, but compared to other tracks, and not just this DLC, but in the rest of the game, it's just so boring. At least Donut Plains in the base game had the balls to feel different than its original counterpart. Considering what happens in the next track, it makes me even more upset they didn't try to at least make this one interesting. Calamari Desert is the same as every iteration it's been, as you expect, but it has an interesting gimmick in this version. You can ride on the train tracks, like you could back in N64, where you would get run over by the train and you couldn't avoid it at all. This was such a surprise to me when I first played it. It actually gave some depth to a retro track that would otherwise be predictable. That doesn't happen a lot in the past, but when it does, it's a great change of pace.
It only happens 2 times.
Waluigi Pinball, I'm really gonna be honest with you, this track really pisses me off, but I understand why it's a fan favorite. It's such a unique concept, raiding inside a pinball machine. Just being inside a giant pinball machine is different, like it's never been done before. But I gotta say, the pinballs, I hate them. What else was I even gonna say? The item roulette sound changes in this one. I think that's an amazing touch. Too bad this is the only course that shares the same music with another. In the Propeller Cup, we have Tour Sydney Sprint, GBA Snowland, Wii Mushroom Gorge, and a fucking curveball, Sky High Sunday. An entirely new track exclusive to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, goddammit. When the Booster Course Pass was announced, it was clearly stated it would be retro tracks only. So imagine my surprise when they gave us a completely new one in the next wave, only for it to not actually be new and was just put in 8 Deluxe before Tour, which honestly, just by looking at it, you probably could have guessed that. But we'll get into that later. I think Sydney Sprint is a favorite of mine. Not only is the music amazing, but the fact that you're not just driving through the same city buildings over and over again, but you drive through the Opera House and you can see the amusement park in the background, adding more flair than any city track we've gotten so far. And the layout change is a lot more interesting in this track in a lot of ways. I don't know, it's just great. It's really great. It's still similar to stuff we've already seen, but who cares? Snowland actually might be my favorite GBA retro track in this game. Not from the track layout necessarily, but it just makes me feel really jolly, like the music is jolly. And I'm gonna randomly mention that it has a great shortcut with a mushroom. And penguins! Mushroom Gorge is just how you remember it, which is not a bad thing, mind you. It's a great track. It didn't need any changes. I really love the music in this one too. I'm saying I like music a lot, am I like Mozart? And you can still do the gap jump on 200cc. I don't know about 150 though. that's a little bit risky.
Wow, this cup has been nothing but great so far. Was I really wrong about the second wave being on the same level as the first?
Take a look at Sky High Sunday's map. Notice anything familiar? Besides the boring track layout, one thing that ticks me off about Sky High Sunday is that it has only anti-gravity for some reason. Something we haven't seen from any of the tracks in this DLC yet is the anti-gravity. Like, it's literally in the render! That's a really weird thing for them to do, but it honestly makes it more fun to traverse the track because of how much airtime you get in the shortcuts you can take. But I mean, it's fine. I wouldn't put it among the likes of Ice Outposts or something, because even that was more decent than this.
Also, a lot of people said that this was like a Fall Guys ass looking track. And I'm like, have you played Fall Guys?
Oh, by the way, the cars at Coconut Mall move now. They do donuts. Not like constantly shift into drive and reverse, which makes it less annoying, but removes some of the challenge. This isn't going to be the only major change they do, by the way. I'm not even going to hint at that. It's just not. Wave 3 is where things start to get interesting. In the Rock Cup, we have Tour London Loop, GBA Boo Lake, 3DS Rock Mountain, and Wii Maple Treeway. One of the best looking tracks in the entire series, in my opinion. But we'll get to that later, I'm getting ahead of myself again. London Loop in the United Kingdom is where my good chum Salty Seals resides in.
I think Plushki sucks! More like Poopski!
So you didn't like the accent? What have I said about this that I have not said for most of the other tour tracks? The layout was too similar to tracks we've seen and will see, and even if it didn't, I just hate the amount of turns this track has, and the roundabout in between, which is, I guess the UK is known for, but not really good for a Mario Kart track, or any race track for that matter.
Who would put a roundabout on a racetrack? Are you stupid or something? Like, also, I feel like out of all the city tracks, this one overstays its welcome the most. Like, when I first played this, I was really wondering when this track was gonna end.
The queen would have been dead by the time I was finished.
Boo Lake is the first track in the DLC that had legit anti-gravity mechanics. It doesn't exclude it or include it the entire time. And it's for that reason only that makes me like this track. It's really not that interesting outside of that, honestly. Rock Mountain is one of the uglier looking ones in the wave, like a stain on your pants. But this also has anti-gravity, so it's alright, except it's only there because the physics of this game is goofier than the others.
Do I have to?
Which is probably why it was in any of the tracks in the DLC. Maple Tree Way, like I said earlier, is one of the best tracks in the series. It adds a half-pipe back since it was missing from 7. Wait a second! Half-pipes haven't been in a Mario Kart game since Wii. 8 has never had half-pipes before. And even though it looks like the racer enters anti-gravity mode while going up, it actually has entirely different properties, giving them a fire trail boost when hitting the ground instead of a mini turbo boost you get from drifting, or the boost you get from after tricking. Which actually makes doing it useful because the fire trail boost is faster than both. I'm really glad this won't be the only example of this, because if it was, I would turn myself into a half-pipe. I'd cut myself in half. Here at the halfway mark, the Moon Cup has Berlin Byways, DS Peach Garden, Merry Mountain, which is also from Tour but doesn't have the prefix, and 3DS Rainbow Road, which is the first good Rainbow Road in the game. Berlin Byways is slightly more interesting in the sense that it has traffic. Does that mean I like it?
As much as whoever liked the wall.
But the Berlin Wall has womps, so I guess this is alright in my book. It's a really weird book. Peach Garden is a unique one, not just from its theme being a botany place, but also for some reason you randomly do it backwards on the third lap. I want to know the thought process behind some of these choices. This and Calamari Desert have a gimmick in between laps, and they're not Tour City tracks, which are established to have them guaranteed. Not that it's a bad change, it's the exact opposite. I love them doing this, but it feels so random. There's not really a reason for this. At least riding on the train tracks in Calamari made sense, because that's what people did. Speaking of random...
Ho ho ho! Merry Valentine's Day!
I started writing this script in November. I think I might just love winter because this and Snowland are definitely my most favorite tracks in the DLC. The way this track looks, it's just so vibrant. There's a zero gravity section and a half pipe. It doesn't feel out of place to me. To me, this feels like a base Mario Kart 8 track. This is definitely my favorite for this wave. Another example of this would be the next track, Rainbow Road for Mario Kart 7. Arguably one of the better ones. So much so that it got its own Smash Brothers stage.
Well, I guess there was enough arguing.
Except there's one major problem. It's sectioned. You don't do 3 full laps. That's why people didn't like N64 Rainbow Road in 8. I'm people! It's not bad that a track is sectioned. Mount Wario, Big Blue, and the Woohoo Island tracks from 7 are great. Too bad they're not in this DLC, spoiler! But that's because they were made for that. They were made to be sectioned. The Rainbow Roads weren't made to be sectioned. They were meant to be the hardest tracks in the game, so of course they'll be long.
But I guess it's alright. I still like playing on all the Rainbow Roads. Get the freak out of my face.
Surprisingly, this wave added the best feature literally out of nowhere, being poor. The addition of custom items is amazing because you can have a race like this. This looks like hell, but trust me, this is the most fun I've had with this game. It gives us something a Mario Kart hasn't done before, which makes 8 Deluxe more than just a port. And that's not all. Getting struck by lightning while gliding no longer closes the glider. One of the most annoying things to deal with in this game, and they removed it. God is good.
The Fruit Cup includes Tour Amsterdam Drift, GBA Riverside Park, Wii DK Summit, Yoshi's Island, and new character Birdo.
Amsterdam?
Apparently, this was the wave where Nintendo finally decided that this roster sucks and added one new character to the roster, Birdo, that comes in a variety of colors, one of which is actually good. She was definitely mysteriously absent from the roster like many others because of these f***ers. I understand why they might do this, because these tracks were not appealing at all, and even if they were, 96 courses in one game, and the roster looks pretty small in comparison. Not to mention there were DLC characters in the original game. So why wouldn't you do it for this one too? Only adding one character though, and having to wait this long for just one, that hurts. But there are 5 more slots on here. Seeing which character will be next gets me excited. This is Smash speculation. This entire DLC is just like the Fighter's Pass. Amsterdam Drift is one of the better city tracks, specifically for the underwater section, on this field of polygonal flowers. And that's pretty much it. So I guess it's really not one of the good ones then. Riverside Park, unfortunately, is one of the weakest GBA tracks here. It's alright for what it's worth, but compared to the other ones, yeah, it isn't much. Would have much rather had Lakeside Park over this one because the gimmick on that track, not counting Grumble Volcano I guess, is so different it would have been a change of pace for the GBA tracks in the DLC, despite my praise for them this far being pretty bland. DK Summit, this is it right here. Another great retrack, another track prominent in time trials like Mushroom Gorge, and with the re-inclusion of half pipes, this track is just perfect. For some reason though, when you fall into a hole, you fall for like 5 seconds. That's like a little bit weird, I think. And finally, probably my top 3 favorite tracks in this DLC. Yoshi's Goddamn Island. Let me tell you why this track is amazing. First of all, second of all, look at it! This track is beautiful. It captures Yoshi Island's art style so well. For the 3 people who haven't figured it out, this is based on the SNES game Yoshi's Island. There are so many references to the game all over. Stilt Guys, Huffin' Puffins, the Yoshi coins, Poochie, the winged question mark cloud thing. The track itself might be roughly based on the island as seen in the title screen of the game. Nepa Nuts! Those are called Nepa Nuts! Did you know that? This track was still going to be in Tour, but it kind of feels less forced here compared to how forced the Zero Gravity is in Sky High Sunday. Why did they do that? It's at this point that tracks that are called new for the DLC from here on out just might actually be new and ported to Tour later. That's not going to change how the assets look. They were being ported from a mobile game, but the console game was thought about while making it. It should be the other way around, but I'm not a game developer, so what do I know? I don't know what I'm talking about. In the Boomerang Cup, there's Tour Bangkok Rush, DS Mario Circuit, GameCube Waluigi Stadium, and Tour Singapore Speedway. Don't let that Tour prefix fool you. You can tell it's one of the better ones because it's at the end of a Grand Prix.
Oh, that doesn't make sense.
Bangkok is really good actually. They are well known for their stands, so they're everywhere around here. You drive in an indoor parking lot, through a market on water, jump on umbrellas, and there's a sequel to this? There are still better city tracks, but this is at least in the top 5. DS Mario Circuit. Do we really need this one? We already have several Mario circuits in this game, and it's not like Rainbow Road where it's special and a lot better designed. And out of all of the DS tracks that aren't in 8, this is the one they decide to go with? And not Airship Fortress? Cloud Top Cruise has an airship motif too, but this would still be the most unique track in the game. It's in Tour. Why is it not here? That being said, Mario Circuit DS isn't bad. It's a generic track design-wise, but it still has its own flair to it, like Fire Piranha Plants. You haven't seen those in 8 Deluxe yet. And there's a sleeping Wiggler that wakes up on the 3rd lap, which doesn't do that much, but still, it's... Waluigi Stadium was always a favorite of mine in Wii, and that doesn't change here. Like DK Summit, this track would not work without half pipes, so the fact that the DLC added these was a great call. But was probably a call they made from the very conception of the DLC. This track looks way more chocolatey than Choco Mountain. And finally, Singapore Speedway. Can you just tell they know which tour tracks suck and which ones are actually worth a damn? There are so many reasons why this track clears every tour course prior, with a few exceptions. The way it looks, the track design, the way the dynamic music exists. I know nothing about Singapore, but after looking at this, I want to go there. More than Tokyo. Because if Tokyo looks like this, I give up my dream of wanting to go there. Because that's my dream place. Place Japan. In addition to Birdo and the tracks, obviously, other new inclusions are being able to look behind you while you're a bullet bill. Finally, I've been asking for that for years. The Feather Cup has Tour Anthem's Dash, GameCube Daisy Cruiser, Wii Moonview Highway, and new Squeaky Clean Sprint. Anthem's Dash is the most unique city track so far, even more than Singapore. Singapore just looked better. Anthem Dash is different entirely. It took what Greece is known for and implemented it perfectly, which is something all city tracks try to do, like there's the Empire State Building in New York, the Eiffel Tower in Paris, Big Ben in London, and the Opera House in Sydney, and among other things. But those are more just set pieces to tell you where you are rather than a way of making the track stand out. This stands out. Daisy Cruiser was only visually a good track in my eyes, not that I hate it, it's just that I think the theme of it outweighs the design. But playing this version makes me rethink that, just a little bit. Who the f would want to eat on an unstable cruise ship? But besides that, I do think this is good. Moonview Highway, besides the fact that what this track is assumingly based on is already in the game, and it being another traffic track, which I think we have way too many of now, I still prefer Moonview Highway out of all of those because if this was from Tour, I'd probably be a little more critical, but this is from the Wii, my second favorite Mario Kart game next to this one.
I'm sorry, young one.
It's like praising my favorite child for getting a C, but scalding my oldest for getting an A-. And I don't care. And now, we get to the last track, Squeaky Clean Sprint. There is no way this wasn't made with 8 in mind, unless they wanted to be really ambitious for some reason. So, you know GBA Andy's room, where you're shrunk down and everything around you is toy-themed? And that's where the Kung Fu Lakitu poster came from? Imagine that, but a bathroom. This is definitely a weird one, but it's also such a great idea. First of all, they really doubled down on the Mario-themed products in this place. I've been feeling clogged up lately. I think I should take some Mario laxatives. You go inside of not just the bathtub, but also the drain, and there's a ring down there for some reason, and there are multiple paths at the end and even beginning. This is the most effort they would have ever put into a tour track if this was made for Tour, which is why I believe this is 100% made with the Booster Course Pass in mind, even though it is in Tour. But if I booted this up on my phone, the Cherry Cup includes Tour Los Angeles Laps, GBA Sunset Wilds, Wii Koopa Cape, and also Tour Vancouver Velocity. Los Angeles Laps is where my good friend Legendary Mudkip lives.
I hate you, You're a horrible person. You suck. I hope you die and go to hell. And then I hope you die again.
I hope your next earthquake is a magnitude 3. Los Angeles is known for their beaches, but it also is apparently known for baseball and oil production. I know these are both popular destinations in LA, but like, come on, man. The Hollywood sign? But these locations make Los Angeles a lot more unique looking, though not entirely fun to race on, but I can't complain too much because it separates itself from the other city tracks well enough. My one main problem with this remaster, however, is they removed the bops in the original music. Sunset Wilds was a favorite of mine in Super Circuit, and I'm not alone in thinking that. The sun actually does set with every lap you race on it, which means by the third lap, it's nighttime. They would have made it the most unique track in the game if they put it in! There's one more update after this, and in that one, they didn't even fix the sun not setting, like they did with the cars in Coconut Mall. This doesn't really seem like a big deal, but this is because every variation of this track does this. All 2 of them. And one of those was in Tour, which this track is modeled on, and Tour tracks only have 2 laps instead of 3, so would it really make sense to put it in Tour if it only has 2 stages? They did it anyway! This course is alright regardless. I like the Shy Guys singing. I like Shy Guys. Koopa Cape is another one of the greats of Mario Kart Wii, and that's kept here in the remaster except for the underwater section. The underwater segment used to have obstacles in it, and they replaced it with the whatever hell these things are called. This was done in the 3DS variation as well, so this was a given, but it's still disappointing. Doesn't make this track bad, but it definitely makes it worse, in my opinion. Vancouver Velocity. Remember what I said about tour tracks being the last track in the Grand Prix earlier?
Don't let that tour prefix fool you. You can tell it's one of the better ones because it's at the end of a Grand Prix.
So I lied. Vancouver is a good track, and that's also where my buddy Hawk 100 lives. That is where you live, right?
Shut up, you big dumbass dork. You should become the president of the Shut Up Factory. Because then you would shut up.
I thought you were supposed to be nice! It's nowhere near Singapore good. I guess it's a little more different than the other city courses. It takes place at night, and there's snow. Of course there's snow, it's Canada. But personally, it's just alright to me. The music is a slapper, I'll tell you that. Oh wait, I forgot about the characters. This is the best wave of characters we've gotten in the entire DLC. PD Piranha, who hasn't been in a Mario Kart since Double Dash, and that was his only Mario Kart, not counting Tour, though he was planned for Wii and was cut. Wiggler, also only in one Mario Kart, not counting Tour, and the only good newcomer in 7. Alongside Lakitu, I guess. I don't like you. And Kamek, who hasn't been in any Mario Kart, not counting Tour, but was planned to be in the series ever since 64. He's never been in a game since, and they finally added him here. The next character wave is gonna be great too, despite only having 2 slots left, but this is easily the best because of the history. Wiggler is so stupid, why would he be in this game? But it's so funny! Petey and King Boo are finally reunited, and Kamek is finally in a Mario Kart. Not counting Tour. This was also the update that killed the Waluigi Wiggler combination. Let's go! Wigger Wednesday is dead!
We've come a long way, haven't we? We really learned a lot about each other. I had to play this game for an hour straight.
In the Acorn Cup, there's Tour Rome Avanti, GCN Donkey Kong Mountain, Wii Daisy Circuit, and Piranha Plant Cove. Which is also from Tour, but doesn't... Rome Avanti is okay, but one of the better ones, I guess. I've said that a lot for this. I can't really say that much about it. I think this is the first Mario Kart track with fuzzies and rocky wrenches, so that's cool. Obviously they have the Colosseum, but there are chain chomps inside, which is a pretty neat reference to how gladiators were murdered by lions in cold blood. Though I would have preferred Dino Dino Jungle, DK Mountain is also a really great track. The volcano looks a lot more pissed than normal. The wobbly bridge is definitely still wobbly. This is the same track where this clip came from. You can now experience how awful the world is in HD. You may think I'm gonna sing my praises about DZ Circuit because I have literally every Mario Kart Wii track, and the fact that I love sucking Mario Kart Wii's Wii Remote. And don't get me wrong, Daisy Circuit is very visually appealing. And look, Daisy Cruiser, remember that? From like a few minutes ago? Mario Kart Wii is known for some of the most iconic tracks the series has ever had, and that shows through the DLC. It has the second largest number of tracks, clearly falling behind Tour. What I'm saying here is...
Where's Toad's factory, you cowards? Huh?
I can't really be mad, honestly. Daisy Cruiser is really good and iconic like the rest of them. The Daisy and Luigi statues still get talked about a lot. But one of the fan favorites being missing from the game honestly kind of hurts, as a big Mario Kart Wii fan. Why did I spend a lot of time bitching about that? I like Daisy Circuit. And lastly, Piranha Plant Cove. It's a pretty good underwater track. I like the aesthetic of it. Not really too special, but still fun. Something weird about this track though is, unlike every other obviously a tour track but nuh-uh according to the game, is that this does change every lap. It might be because this track in tour, because that's where it's from, it's not new. I have to remind you every 10 seconds, like you're a baby with the attention span of mashed potatoes. This track was split into 3 in tour, while tracks like Ninja Hideaway and Merry Mountain doesn't. Why? It makes it stand out. I don't know if that's good or bad. If you have OCD, maybe it's negative. I don't know if that's how OCD works. And here we are, the very final cup of the DLC, the Spiny Cup. We have Tour Madrid Drive, 3DS Rosalina's Ice World, SNES Bowser's Castle 3 specifically, and Wii Rainbow Road. I can go on and on about that, but I gotta wait, ooh. The last Tour City track, Madrid Drive, is unfortunately underwhelming. It, like most others, isn't that exciting, which makes me wonder why they wanted this in the last supposedly most difficult cup and not one of the 3 good ones. The museum is pretty cool, I guess. Things come to life, but I came to life 18 years ago, so that's not gonna save it from being disappointing. What makes me the most upset about this course is that there's a football stadium with a unique backing track that only shows up in 1 lap for like 5 seconds. I wish real football games lasted that long, honestly, but for this track, it's terrible! Rosalina's Ice World. This one was probably picked out of a hat, to be honest.
What the f-
Tour was made with the same framework as Mario Kart 7, so it makes sense to have damn near every course from 7, except the ones in 8 already and the 2 Woohoo Island tracks, which, f*** you for that, Nintendo. I think tracks like Shy Guy Bazaar or Wario Shipyard would have made more sense because those are way more unique than another ice level. There seems to be a theme here. I guess even though it's another ice/snow-based track, it still has its own flair, the flair being Galaxy references. I do love me some Mario Galaxy, so I'll give it to you. The track itself, though? But why are these boost pads so long? Damn. SNES Bowser's Castle 3. This is an interesting one. Wanna know why I claim that some tracks are very clearly made with Mario Kart 8 in mind? You must have thought I lost my marbles.
I must be around here somewhere.
There is depth, zero gravity, alternate paths, and just look at the lava! Oh man! Look at SNES Mario Circuit, and then look at this. Hell, look at every SNES track in Tour, and then look at this. If they were gonna put this in Tour and leave it at that, this track design would have been flatter than my chest, but clearly this was meant for the DLC. And on top of all of that, this is the second Bowser's Castle track in the game now. It only took them 10 years, what the f? And lastly, Wii Rainbow Road, arguably the best Rainbow Road in the entire series. It was the only choice for the very final track in the DLC, and like some of the other Wii tracks, it was already perfect originally. So for the remaster, besides some background elements that were completely unneeded, everything goes untouched. You still plummet to the earth at an alarming rate when you fall off, there are still star bits everywhere, and best of all, it's not sectioned. 3 full laps! This is now the longest track in Mario Kart 8, and I am so grateful for it! Sorry. Obviously, if you can't tell, I love this track. The one major thing holding 3DS Rainbow Road back is because it's not a full 3 laps, because the devs were cowards. But I really think they listened here, so they could make this wave the best it could have been. It didn't even stop there! This goes outside of the tracks also. The character selection in this one is fairly predictable, but still amazing. Diddy Kong, who's been missing for way too long, Funky Kong coming back at last after only being in one game, which just so happened to be the best one, and probably the only reason people remember Funky existing, Pauline making her first Mario Kart debut, besides Tour, seeing how she started appearing in more spin-offs lately after her big comeback in Odyssey. If they left her out of this one, it would have been criminal. Almost as criminal as putting this in your roster! Almost every character had a reason to be here. Even Wiggler had a reason to be here. Why Peachette? Why her? I thought we were done with her after Nintendo realized they could just make Peach a playable character. Is it because they needed one more slot and it would have been easier to just reuse Peach assets? You had plenty of assets right here! You've been using them this entire time! Are you stupid?
Hey, so I'm editing, and I completely forgot to mention, there's 2 slots right there, but there's not even 2 more characters left. They added 4. Like they forgot how to count and put 4 in instead. That's really crazy. Don't ask why I'm in a dark void.
That's not all though. They added lobby codes, so now you can invite people outside of your friends list to race on any track instead of being forced into a shitty tourney where you can only pick 3 at a time or pray to God that a track you want gets selected by random. It even has less digits than the tournament code. I could kiss you. But wait, there's more. Me outfits. Now you're not forced to wear the same biker gear. Your Mii can wear a wide variety of outfits, all come from Tour, but all look fantastic and come with their own trick animation too, which Amiibo outfits don't have. Whoa, hold on there. Speaking of Amiibo outfits, Daisy has one now. Why didn't she have one before?
I don't know, misogyny.
And just in case you thought it couldn't get any better, they put the whole dang soundtrack in this thing. Yeah, you can listen to every course's theme in the game, every alternate version too. That includes Wario Stadium and Waluigi Pinball. So is it safe to say that Wave 6 is the best in the DLC?
Probably safer than being American, I'll tell you that.
There was absolutely no reason they had to go all out with this last update, but it honestly makes me really happy that they didn't just put courses into the game and call it a day. These updates made the game so much better than it was when it first came out. When it first came out was way before this. We may not know why it took this long to give your best-selling game on your current console DLC. It was probably Tour's fault, but I'm glad they did regardless. They did so much better than we expected. First impressions were very iffy considering these courses are from Tour and mainly just ported over, but I'd say they did a little better buffing out some of the obviously bad-looking parts of a track. Not well enough to where it's unnoticeable, but just enough. Like I said before, this was pretty much like Smash Ultimate in structure, and now I see that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just like Smash Ultimate of Mario Kart now. Where do we go from here? Either way, Mario Kart's coming back in some way. They'd be dumb not to do that. But where to take the series after this, after establishing something so grand it can be used for years to come, and not just years to now? Either way, I love Mario Kart, and whatever happens with it next, you already know I'm gonna be there. Mario Kart 8, it's been fun. Thank you for all the memories. But you didn't add Koopa Troopa Beach even though it's literally referenced in the game already, so I take it back. Your game is garbage.